Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to watch Kenya's #1 intellectual debate platform on KBC Channel 1. This is the Great Debaters Contest Season 8. I am your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. And we are camped at Mount Kenya, Nyeri region this week. And starting us off, the motion is, healthcare should be privatized in Africa in order to improve services.
While proposing this motion, we have Nanyuki High School.
And opposing the motion, we have Othaya Boys High School.
Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
For sure, the great men of Winchester did not blindfold us. When they talked of their adage, every cloud has a silver lining. It is not just a silver lining, but a significant influence out of turbulences that cannot be managed. Healthcare should be privatized for improved services in Africa. I stand firmly here as a protagonist to propose the motion that states healthcare should be privatized for improved services in Africa. Basically, what is healthcare? Healthcare is the improvement of health through prevention, diagnosis, or treatment of diseases through health practitioners such as the dentists. What is should? Should is the need to do something. What is to improve? Is to make something better than before. What is to privatize? It is to transfer the ownership of the health sector from the public health sector to the private health sector. Without dilly-dallying. Privatization of hospitals leads to an increase in maternity care. According to the recent statistics, it is said that 58,000 Nigerian women died in public hospitals because the doctors were out on a strike. To the opposers, if you have the guts to stand and defend your opposing side, does it mean you're male chauvinists? Come on, be men. The government, it is heavily contributed by the government, which spends about 3.7% of its national revenue in the health sector, which is below the world average rates. An increase, the privatization of hospitals will lead to an increase in life expectancy. Germany has one of the most successful health facilities in the world, and that can be experienced because they have a high life expectancy. Males can live up to 81 years, while females can live up to 84 years. While for us as Africans, male can only live for 61 years, while the females can only live for 64 years. What do we learn from this as Africans? We have to improve our healthcare facilities and change them from the private health sector to the public health sector. Privatization of hospitals will lead to a decrease in the infant mortality rate. When you go outside Africa to a country such as Hungary, 4 out of 1,000 children die during giving birth. But now, when we come to an African country such as Somalia, 98.40 children die out of 1,000. What do we learn out from this as Africans? We have to accept the reality and move on. There is poor infrastructure in public hospitals. Recently, there was a partial roof collapse in Maxet Hospital in Johannesburg. This is one of the best public hospitals in South Africa. The catastrophe led to the deaths of about 500 patients even before they received their medical care. It is just like building a house without a strong foundation. You just consider on the business you are doing, because those patients even died before they received the health facilities. When we go to a hospital in the USA, such as the Johns Hopkins, which is managed by Ben Carson, it is one of the busiest hospitals in the world. There is negligence in public hospitals. There in KNH, a neurosurgeon who has learned for 16 years had the guts to operate on a wrong patient. They are just defending themselves by saying it was a mix-up of files. Come on, be real men. It is not mix-up of files. They are just trying to defend their legacy. To my opposers, do not allow to be augushed by the gimmick of the public health sector. The floor is open. You can undoubtedly cross to our side. Do not let the lions of darkness barricade your way out of the dark jungle. Join us in the world of genuinity, openness, and truthfulness. Thank you.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
The renowned Mahatma Gandhi once said, "It is health that is real wealth, and not pieces of silver or gold." And today, I stand by him. Collins Motari, Othaya Boys High School, here to fervently oppose the motion that spells healthcare should be privatized for improved services in Africa. What is healthcare? According to the Macmillan Dictionary, 3rd edition, healthcare refers to the services that look after people's health, while privatization refers to the selling of businesses that formerly belonged to the government to individuals. You can play with anything else, but never gamble with a nation's health. Access to quality healthcare is a right for every African citizen. Right here in Kenya, it is engraved in Chapter 4 of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. African governments have achieved milestones in the Millennium Development Goals, specifically number 5 and 6, in combating universal migrants such as HIV and AIDS, malaria, in improving maternal health care. It has achieved milestones. Barack Obama once said that private hospitals are not for maximizing profits. In his speeches, one of his moving speeches in 2007, I'll refer back to the Macmillan Dictionary. What is a private hospital? A private hospital is a hospital that is for making profit. It then beats logic that some of the private hospitals, the top-notch we have, take an example of Kenya's very own, demand for payment before even treatment commences, even in cases of emergencies. I'll take an example that was in the newspaper, The Standard to be specific, 11th April 2017, of a man named Okwach. He suffered a stroke during midnight. To make it worse, on a weekend, he was rushed to Kenya's very own top-notch hospital, Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi, only for the doctors to demand 700,000, such a lump sum, for him to be admitted in the hospital, bearing in mind that it was a weekend, it was a midnight, this was an ordinary Kenyan. If that is not enough, other top-notch hospitals in Kenya, Mpisha Hospital demand 450,000, Nairobi Hospital 600,000. Take another example. In South Africa, they allocate 9% of their GDP on healthcare, equal to what developed nations such as Spain and Malta spend. We have the finest healthcare system in the world. Why destroy that? Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your submission.
The volcano is about to erupt. Just to begin with, why do you think that India is one of the best countries in the world in terms of health facilities? Don't answer me. I, David Kimani, a product of Nanyuki School, is here to reveal to you the light. For me to reveal you the light, you have to support me in proposing the motion that says healthcare should be privatized for improved services in Africa. Simply, India is ranked as one of the best hospitals. It's ranked as one of the best countries in terms of health facilities, simply because, one, most of the hospitals, about 80%, are private. Second, doctors there are qualified, they are of high quality. Third, there is high level of technology. I would first like to correct my fellow opposer. He talked that private hospitals are mainly meant for making profit. I would like you to know that they are the profit-making organization and the non-profit-making organizations. Not all hospitals that are private are meant for making profit. Furthermore, to privatize, it is not to sell, it is to transfer. First, when you privatize the hospitals, it will lead to improved services. How this happened? We do not want to have cases like the scenario in Zimbabwe. You find that the greatest part of Zimbabwe, the hospitals there are public hospitals. In those hospitals, we don't have beds, we don't have staff, and we don't have the technology. How do you expect a person going for a surgery to be attended for? First of all, who is going to attend to the person? Second, if the person is operated on, where will the person sleep? On the floor? Where? I would like you to tell us more about that. Secondly, it will lead to improved economy. Once, a wise person said that a healthy nation is a working nation. This no at a time, you'll find that someone who is ill, he or she is doing good performance. For you to perform good or to perform in a high quality, you need to be strong and healthy. So what does it tell us? If we vitalize our hospitals, it is going to lead to improved economy, such that the biggest percentage will be able to work due to the strength that they have. At another angle, you'll find that instead of us going to the hospitals outside, for example in India, they will be coming to Africa, whereby we'll be gaining the government revenue. Alternatively, the doctors to patient ratio will be increased. Recently, in Tanzania, the patients to doctors ratio is 30:1, such that one doctor is expected to attend to 30,000 patients, which is impossible. We have to adapt the correction. We have to adapt the culture from other countries and other continents for that matter. Opposers, you need to shape up and come up with the right arguments. For real, your basis of argument is not real. You're not true to your instincts. So, if you cannot beat us, just join us. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
I appreciate the presence of the judges in the House, the presence of the other side of the House, and the audience. Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane of all. So first of all, to rebuttal our proposers. You're talking about not all hospitals are out to make profit. Then why is there room for some to make profit? On to my first point. Public hospitals are making steps to universal health coverage. For example, the free cancer screening, free VCT services, free immunizations such as polio. We're talking about free services offered by the government, free essential services being offered by the government. The government has set aside, according to the standard, on July 22nd, 2016, the government has set aside 4 billion shillings for free maternity insurance cover for poor women. If we allow the private hospitals to do this, how sure are we that they will match up to the current services that we have in Kenya and in Africa at large? Second, health schemes introduced by the government since 1st May 2018 have the government allocating 1,350 shillings per student annually. This is to cater for dental services, inpatient services, outpatient services, optical services, evacuation, funeral services. Let me remind you of Valea Ngoini from Moi Girls High School. After the famous Inferno in Moi Girls High School, she suffered 82% burns on her body. She was taken to Nairobi Hospital, where the bill amounted to around 1 million shillings. If this system had been established before, then she will not have to pay, her family will not have to pay a huge sum, or the person responsible. So, if we leave this to the private sector, how sure are we that they will be able to provide these services? Then, the government has gone an extra mile of negotiating for Cuban expatriate specialists, to be specific, 100 of them, to come and train and treat Kenyans. Kenya has also sent 50 specialists to go and be trained in Cuba for the same reason. If we were to leave the system of healthcare to the private sector, how sure are we that the same services will be provided? There should be equity in access. Health is a right, not a privilege. On April 1st, 2017, South Africa's oppressive system of apartheid and racism in natal private hospitals denied 600 women the opportunity to access health services. Then, Tanzania's First Lady, Janeth Magufuli, fell ill on 10th November 2016. She was hospitalized in Muhimbili Hospital, which, by the way, is a public hospital. A question to the opposers. Does Uhuru even know where Kenyatta National Hospital is? Thank you.
The proposers have been asked. There are examples of good hospitals that are actually public hospitals, for example, the Level 5 hospital in Machakos. So would they still advocate to privatize the health sector when we have such? And the opposers have been asked, do we ever see errors such as what occurred in Kenyatta Hospital with the brain surgery in private hospitals? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
Thank you all. First, yes, we agree that we have hospitals. We have good public hospitals, but are they well equipped? Do they have these machines that we have in various private hospitals? And to my, a wise man once said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 point. Africa needs to take its first step in achieving its 1,000-mile goal by first supporting me in proposing the motion that says healthcare should be privatized for improved services in Africa. Now, Michael Senya is my name from the great African School of Gentlemen, Nanyuki. Now, on to my first point. Private hospitals are poorly managed. Why? Recently, in our hospitals, we find patients lying in the cold floors the whole of the night, waiting to queue on the long queues in the morning to receive treatment. And this also affects the doctors who are pressured by the patients, and yet the chances of receiving their salary at the end of the month are minimal. Look at corruption. Corruption is the greatest thing that is destroying Africa recently. Look at the doctors themselves. Doctors don't have a direct contact with their employees. I like to use this simple illustration. Suppose I came to the house with a packet of the trending KDF and a bottle of soda and asked the messers in the house, which foodstuff did you want to have for lunch? Most of you will tell me the soda. Why? 1, because it's cheap. 2, it's tasty. But some of you will give an excuse that is satisfying. Yeah, I agree it's satisfying, but the satisfaction does not last longer. This same applies to public hospitals and private hospitals. Look at private hospitals. Yeah, private hospitals are expensive, but look at the services they offer. They offer world-class services, unlike public hospitals that are cheap, and the services they offer are of low value. This brings me to my point of poor management. Patients in public hospitals often lie on cold floors, waiting to be served the next day. This is a problem caused by lack of facilities. Lack of facilities, mostly in public hospitals, has led to mostly doctors vacating to private hospitals, hence improving the private sector than the public sector. Recently, we have seen doctors striking in the streets like jobless people, and yet they are qualified for a job. What do? They go to private hospitals, start their own businesses there, and strive for customer satisfaction. This makes it possible for the government. This makes it possible for them to earn much income than the one they were earning. Thank you. And as they say in French, merci beaucoup. It was a pleasing time to be with you.
That opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond to the question.
Running away from a problem only increases the distance between you and the solution. The only way to escape from it is by solving it. Join me as we solve these crises that has arisen in Africa, the dire need of healthcare services, through the provision of health services by the government. From Othaya Boys High School, I am Alan Raggi. First, to answer a question posed by the audience, you ask whether we have some certain scenarios in the private hospitals whereby some acts of inhumanity might have occurred. Yes, they are, and it's a fact. On 16th December in the year 2009, in the Prince's Maternity Hospital, that is in Sierra Leone, there happened to be a reported case of nurses pinching the women who are delivering with scissors to hasten the process. Isn't this an act of inhumanity that takes place in the private sector, in the private hospitals for that case? The proposers also claim that in the public hospitals, we do not have qualified doctors. Allow me to brief you something that I think you are ignorant of. Doctors all over the continent will undergo the same course of training, the same course of study, and therefore, the same doctors that we have in the public hospitals are the same doctors that we are going to be having even in the private hospitals. You also claim that not all the hospitals are off to make profit, but we are still asking our question, why are you giving room to some? Then, let's talk about a point that you stated that in the public hospitals, there are scenarios where we're having patients lying on the floors and some sharing beds. Why don't you explain to us about the high cost that is being charged by the private hospitals in order to access the medical services, making it inefficient in the provision of health services? On to my first point. According to the social statistics program research that was undertaken from about 1999 to 2013, there's an increased number of public hospitals in the continent as compared to the number of private hospitals. And this is therefore an evidence of the government taking up the role and responsibility of providing quality health services to its citizens. About 60% of all the hospitals in the continent lay under the public sector. 25% are missionary hospitals, whereas 15% are private hospitals. More so, the government also allocates a huge amount of funds from the national budget that takes up about 10 to 15% of it, and about 1% is also allocated to the health sector as an equalization fund. Let's ask ourselves this question: what will happen to the private hospitals in case they run out of funds? We can all attest to it that the government itself is in the highest position to acquire funds from donors like the World Health Organization of the United Nations. And for that, I rest my case.
Proposition, you have 1 minute to wrap up your case.
They say health is wealth. We need health to acquire our wealth. Why should we congest ourselves in public hospitals, and yet there lies various privileges in private hospitals? Privileges such as an increase in maternity care, low infant rates, decrease in infant mortality and flexibility. Our president once said that a healthy nation is a working nation. We need to be healthy to grow. It's high time that Africa becomes healthy to make the steps of reaching its 1,000-mile goals that I believe it will reach. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute to wrap up your case.
The health of a nation's citizens is one of the primary priorities of each and every government. And that is why the government itself takes up the role of providing health services to its citizens. The private sector is only rough and ready for the role, and the government cannot afford to give the private hospitals enough rope to undertake this activity. One of the big four agendas of the countries is about provision of quality public health to its citizens that is quite affordable, and actually it should also be well distributed. And also, now because we're having the government providing the services, we will never have a scenario whereby we'll be having a monopoly, as the government will be able to control the price of the medical services that are provided as compared to when the private sector is providing the medical services. Thank you.
Stanley, I think you started the team well. You're quite forceful. You have a force in your way. You were almost fighting these teams on the stage, which is quite a good start, yes. But sometimes you want to also balance and ensure that you're giving your submissions. You had very good points. You gave examples of Nigeria, Germany, South African's tragedy. Nonetheless, you only missed on one thing, which is quite important. In debate, every argument must be backed up with evidence. So you have to tell us the source. Let me take you to Alan. Alan, when he was giving an example, he had to cite and say a particular date and the likes, okay? So that's very important. It only takes you about 5 seconds to do that, but validates, because we as judges here may want to check, are you telling us the truth? So the question for you as the first speaker was, how will services improve? And I want to say Michael and David gave us examples of that, but for you as the first speaker, you must build that case. David, good start as well. I think I would say you missed on the cross-examination. That's your role. Nonetheless, you gave some facts as well. You talked about 80% of India's hospitals are private. You want to validate all those facts, okay? So we don't want to assume, so we can know where you got that. However, good time management for you. Michael, fair answer to the question. I think it was a bit of left hanging because you answered it with a question as well. World-class services, the management is better and the likes. And I want to commend the fact that we noticed there was a startup, but you still picked up well, okay? This happens normally to many speakers, so keep up.
Michael, you are a brave debater. As it was, you almost veered off, but you picked yourself and came back. But then some of the examples that you used, you did not support them. You talked of KDF. What do you mean by KDF? Some of us did not understand. We thought of Kenya Defense Forces when probably you are talking about something else. So sometimes when you use some register, it is important that you clear it.
The debate is over and the numbers are in. The judges have decided to award Nanyuki High School 67% and to award Othaya Boys High School 70%, making them the winners of our debate. I guess healthcare should remain public.
As it seems.
Yes. Congratulations to both schools for putting up a good fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we like to say it here at the Great Debaters Contest, we don't have losers, but we have winners and learners, because we are all great debaters. To our audience back at home and watching us across the globe, the debate may be over, but the conversation still continues on all our social media platforms. The hashtag is GDC for SDGs. Until next time, I have been your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. Catch you next time.